monetize assets or hire a third party to conduct the process. Yes, you could argue that it's pretty much one and the same thing, and then there is an option, of course, to say no to both of these. So in that sense, there are two options between there are two options to choose from, so to say, for the unit holders of the six schemes. We'll also try and then talk about a couple of facets around large cap schemes. I've been toying around with this idea. Um, uh, and a portfolio manager has recently opened up a scheme of allowing investors to choose in a large cap portfolio product with almost negligible fees. Are we moving towards uh, times of very little possibilities of outperformance by large cap schemes? I think that's the question that we'll ask. And even in that scenario, if you want to stick to large caps, are there better options or are there ways to maybe choose better or invest better through the SIP route? I think all of that will be answered. So, two guests, Vijay Mantri joins us right now from TLR Money Mutual Attraction, been with us a number of times. For the first time on the mutual fund show, we are also getting Jay Shah of One PL Partners. Gentlemen, both of you, good having you. Thanks so much for joining in and giving us your time. Vijay, let's start off with you. What did you make of what Franklin Templeton has offered its unit holders? We'll then get to the process, of course, but just an initial answer.
I think, first of all, now it is under judicial review, so we very honestly can't comment too much on it. But had it not been a stay from Gujarat court, then the option was that the unit holders say yes or no. And if they say no, then the challenge is that the asset management company would have come with new plan, or trustee would have come with a new plan and offered a new option to the investors. And that could have delayed the ultimate money available to the investor. The second part is that out of these two options, one is Kotak with Franklin Templeton trustee, you go with the Kotak Bank, and then Franklin Templeton AMC helps in that. And second is you don't want to go through that path and you want to go to the Deloitte path, again, where Kotak Bank and Kotak Franklin Templeton AMC would help in both these things. So, but these are the options available. But today we are not here in a position to comment either way right now. But what is more important, and that is, I think, is very critical, is just to see what is happening in the underlying portfolio of Franklin Templeton 6 scheme since 23rd, 24th April 2020 till 31st May 2020. For almost like 40 days, we have some data available. And I think that is much more important. And then also see what can happen going forward and how and when investors potentially can get the money back.
Yeah, sure. And we'll talk about all of that too, which is important. But just follow up. I mean, it's under stay for the time being. It's not necessarily a hold on the process, right? We could have some hearings or some to and fro, and then the same process that has been proposed could well get underway too. Yeah,
Yeah, I can hear you. Absolutely.
yeah, that's what I'm asking, right? That
Yeah,
it's not a full stop on this. This is a comma or
this
a
is a
pause.
coma, but this stay mean that there'll be further hearing happening at the Gujarat High Court. And we do not know because the petitioner asked for the NAV of 23rd to, April 2020 to be given to them for their money. So I don't know what is the final outcome, but let's assume that there was no Gujarat High Court order, and we are
Yeah.
going
Then
into
what?
a assumption. So then, my recommendation to investor that go for yes, because that is the right thing to do. Because if you say no, then the Franklin Templeton trustees have to go back on the drawing board stage and come back with new proposal. Point number one. Once you
Yeah,
said
sure.
yes, then the second option is there were two options available. One is that Templeton Trustees and Kotak Bank, and second is Deloitte. I would always go for Franklin Templeton Trustee companies to look at. So I would go for option one if I'm a unit holder, which I am in one of the scheme of Franklin Templeton.
And we'll get to the why as well. But let's take the initial comments from Jay as well. Jay, uh, subject to, of course, how this shapes up at the courts. What is your sense of the proposals, and what would you have recommended?
Absolutely. Firstly, thanks, Niraj, for having us on the show, and happy to be here. I think we see it as two options, right? Either a yes or a no, more than anything else. Now, whether we go with the Franklin trustee or whether we go with Deloitte, I think more or less, the Franklin Templeton AMC is going to be involved. Kotak at some level is going to be involved. And honestly, there is, at least we feel, there is no way to assess whether a Franklin Templeton is better as a trustee or Deloitte is better. Sure, you can argue that Deloitte maybe does not have this experience, but we are living in a time which is quite unprecedented of sorts, right? This has never happened before. And hence, we say that definitely, yes, it is something that you should want to do quickly rather than delay it. The only point out here is if we could, and if they could sell the underlying bonds much faster, then we wouldn't be here. Right? They've already gone through the process, met a good amount of redemption, borrowed, and then sort of taken the decision to sort of wind up the fund in a manner that we are seeing. So honestly, saying that whether Franklin Templeton trustee or Deloitte is in a better position than anybody else uh, is honestly not a very important question here, because everyone will not be able to sell this, because we live in a supply demand sort of environment, right? No one is going to raise their hand and say that, look, I'm going to buy all these bonds at a very fair price.
So, well, okay, Vijay, you obviously believe that there is merit in choosing one over the other. Why would you say that then? I mean, what is your rationale?
See, a known devil is better than unknown devil. And
Okay.
Franklin Templeton Asset Management Company has 50 other schemes to run, and they have more than 20 years track record in India. If you look at other schemes would have more than 1,50,000 crore or maybe 1 lakh crore plus of investing surplus. And why would they run risk at that? And not only Franklin Templeton is also a global asset management company. What happens in India potentially have a repercussion on various businesses which they run. Since I work in a global company, so I know how seriously the global guys look at any country, because potentially a precedent can be set. Suppose if Franklin Templeton is working in other country and then they come to India, the regulator and investor would also look at what they have done in that country. So it has a wider ramification. So I would go for a non-devil.
Okay, back on. Now let's try and get to the crux of the matter. And Vijay, I'll start off with you, and then I'll go to Jay. Or please feel free, both of you, to come in at any point of time in the conversation as well. But
Sure.
as we decided that since the official process is under review or under stay right now, whichever way you term it, I think once it opens up and once we know the actual ramifications or the actual nuts and bolts, is when we can figure out what is the best advice to give. The question
But
is what's
I'm just
happening
to,
with the
I'm just to try and put in one point here before we get to
project.
this. The petition which is in the Gujarat High Court right now is actually on the legality of this winding down process, right? So there's actually some chance, and I'm not saying I'm a lawyer and know the merits and demerits and have understood and read all the things, but the proposal or what the idea is that, look, you have to ask the unit holders before winding it down. Out here, we seem to be going the opposite way, that we've taken a call to wind it down, and these are the two options available, but not a question on the winding down.
Yeah, and well, again, the point being, can go on about, or there would be probably a lot of merit in a legal conversation around whether a
Absolutely, sure.
fund house is allowed to do that or not. I assume, from whatever little I've read when this first news came out, they were within the rights legally. Morally is a bit of a question, and a lot of people would argue that even on the safety of the money front, probably they have done the right thing. Looking at the circumstances, of
Oh,
course, could
without
they
a
have
doubt.
done better? Could they have done better? It's a separate thing. But anyway, so therefore the question then as to what's happening within these schemes and what should the unit holders now expect, because monies are locked. I don't know about you there, but I'm a unit holder and Vijay said that he is the unit holder too. So Vijay, let's start off with you. What should one expect now in these schemes? What are the underlying changes that are happening? Some monies would have come back, some monies would take time to come. There are some maturity profiles as well. Take us to your rationale.
So the most important thing to see is what has happened from 23rd, 24th April till 31st May. So they are first. I'll tell you a couple of news which are not positive. They are not negative, but they are not positive. One is that on Z paper, the Franklin Templeton scheme has already written it down to 85%. Like 85% has been taken down. Only 100 rupees asset is carrying at 15 rupees. So there has been default on that piece of paper, but they're holding
SL.
securities. Yeah, they're holding securities more than that. So that is the reason there's no markdown on that particular security. The second is that there has been rating downgrade on two paper. One is that one company of Edelweiss, and then there are some group companies, Future Group. There's a rating downgrade happened. And third is that the Future Group has asked for 3 more month moratorium on all the securities which are maturing in various scheme of Franklin Templeton. So these are not so positive, but these are also not negative. However, what is positive and could be heartening to investors to note that since 23rd, 24th April 2020 till 31st May, there had been not a single default or delay anywhere else. They are receiving interest properly, and the borrowing amount across all these six schemes are coming down to the extent that in two schemes the borrowing has become zero. So, for
Mm,
instance, one of the biggest scheme is the ultra short-term bond fund. They had a borrowing of 800 crore plus. Today, the 800 crore borrowing has become zero. It
mm.
means that they have received 860 crore of inflow from the investing companies from the scheme. What is also interesting to know that this money has come from various companies. It has come from Piramal Enterprises. It is Piramal actually has prepaid the money to Franklin Ultra Short Term Bond Fund and various schemes. Money has come from Gender Finance. Money has come from Jindal Group companies. It has come from Hero Group company. It has come from ICICI PNB Housing Finance. So the money has come from various entities. So for investor to look out going forward is this monthly disclosure which Franklin Templeton Asset Management Company is communicating so effectively, and look out the borrowing numbers, look out any default or anything happening, and month on month, I think we should communicate with the investor whatever medium we have. So we, the investor, go through this unprecedented challenge which they perhaps they're facing currently.
Okay. Jen, you have some thoughts here?
Absolutely. I think so. What, I completely agree with what Vijay is saying, to the extent that, this has to be now looked at a monthly level, a continuous level. The portfolio is sort of out there and Franklin itself is sharing it. So it's not difficult to figure out, when something is due, when an interest rate payment is due, when the maturity is there. Uh, but sort of, looking at the profile across the six funds, it's clear that while, the ultra short term and I believe the dynamic approval funds have sort of, become cash positive now, because some of the funds are matured, interest rates, the interest payments have come in. If you see the other funds, and especially I think the income opportunities or the short term income fund, these are maturities which are, post 2021, right? I think at least from what I've seen, that while a lot of investors got in with the intention of taking the benefit of 3 years, longer term debt, safety, etc. I think what I would actually look for is that how aggressively are we trying to get out of something, right? It's one thing to say that look, some of these funds which are winding down. See, when you're winding down, you can't take an approach saying that look, this was a medium term bond and hence the duration was 3 to 5 years or above 5 years, etc. And you have to wait that long. The entire process of winding down is to put money in the hands of an investor, right? And now whether there's prepayment, whether there is maturity, whether someone actually goes out there and sells a particular, let's call it a liquid fund, I think that is what is more important, and that is what at least a few of the clients are looking for. That look, how are they going to get me money in my hand? If they're going to say that, look, I'm not going to be selling, I'm going to be maturing as and when it comes, then this entire exercise, is sort of
But isn't it out that they are trying to wind this down? And yeah, I'll come to you first on this and then get Vijay's thought too. But I mean, I would presume, and from whatever little I have heard, they're not quite waiting out till the till the cows come home. They are trying to take action forward because presumably
sure,
they have to.
sure. So they, as of now, they can't sell anything, right? So
Yeah.
they might be talking to all the underlying bondholders or companies saying that, look, why don't you prepay, call option, put option, etc. But the fact, unfortunately, Neeraj, is that the portfolio that we're seeing right now, look, if I knew that you are stressed, right? Companies are stressed. And I'm not saying across the board and all of them. The first person that I would go to sell is the other mutual funds that have these bond portfolios, right? And we've seen that anywhere from 20 to 60% is an overlap across these funds. Now, if my best buyer of these funds is another mutual fund, as that mutual fund, I'm going to try and take some pound of flesh. Now, maybe there's a discount. Now, whether the discount is significant, minimum to a fair value, is subjective and again comes down to supply and demand. So, what I would again, as I said, what would make sense to me is think that look, out of our portfolio, these portfolios we know we can get out easily, right? Make it into a containment zone of sorts, right? Label it red, orange, and green, and then that will give a good amount of confidence more than anything else.
Yeah, the problem though with that approach, and again, might be the prudent thing to do, Vijay, if you have thoughts here, is that we've seen what happened post FT to the other mutual fund houses as well, wherein some of the paper that would presumably have been in the red zone was transferred into the other funds, and it was not taken kindly by the market.
So that's very true, and I think Franklin Templeton has been very clear in communication. What the maturities which they're showing is actually the worst case scenario where suppose there's no sell down in the market, there's no liquidity in the market happening. Now, if you look at 3 to 5 year call, which Franklin India Income Opportunity Fund and Franklin India Short Term Income Funds paper probably would mature. I think when the normals is written in the market, maybe 6 months, maybe 3 months down the line, I think all these paper will be available and eligible, and perhaps many of these paper would sell at premium, not at discount, if the credit profile improves of these companies. Uh, so, in my opinion, we can keep debating, but for the investor, what is more important to see is what is happening month on month basis to various portfolios. Second thing, also need to see what is happening in segregate portfolios. So, for instance, in various scheme of Franklin Templeton, you have Vodafone Idea. Now, Vodafone Idea, because of rating downgrade, they have to write it down completely and put in the segregated portfolio. Now, one paper is maturing in the month of July. If they get the payment back, they are getting interest. If they get the payment back, it's a very good thing. On 30th June, various papers have a 6 month or 3 month interest accrual. If they are getting the money back, I think it's a very good thing for the investor. And this maturity profile which they're talking about is only of the scheduled repayment. But suppose that somebody prepay, they're able to sell in the market. This doesn't take into consideration interest payment with the various investing company in which Franklin Templeton scheme as investor are going to repay. It doesn't take into consideration the segregated portfolio. So I would look at what is maturing in the month of June. If you look at Franklin India Ultra Short Term Bond Fund, they are close to 250 crore of paper maturing in the month of June. If Franklin Templeton is able to get 250 crore rupees in Ultra Short Term Bond Fund, and some money is coming in low duration fund, low duration fund, I think this will calm the investor nerves much better, in my
Hmm.
opinion.
Okay.
And
So we should move on to other things as well. But just one final thing. So any last word on the FT saga as it stands right now with the information that we have? Where do you first?
So I will disagree with Vijay a bit out here. The entire focus of a mutual fund is to provide liquidity, right? At least that's one of the bigger objectives, right? And hence, sure, monthly paying back the investors will keep the calm sort of in place. But I think it misses the bigger picture that how should we ensure that something like this does not happen, right? Everyone's talking about it has happened. It's an unprecedented event. But what is going to stop somebody else from doing it as well? It's a very open-ended question. I agree. Maybe not the right forum as well. Uh,
Yeah.
but I think that's a more important question. This will get solved in some way.
Okay. So your gut feel about this is that it gets solved in some time. Vijay, last word on the FT piece and anything that you would watch out.
I think I would watch out the maturities. I would watch out the various interest payment. And I have seen the worst of debt market. We have seen 2008. We are seeing this kind of crisis. I looked at the entire portfolio of a Franklin Templeton. Uh, in 3 to 6 month time, when the market get normalized, you will see a lot of money coming back to the investor. So investor will get their money back over a time period. So I would look out for what are the various payments and whether the payments are happening on the time or not. And investors should reach out to people like us if they're getting unknown about various liquidity or whatever it is. The second thing is that it is very important for investors to learn the lesson that when we say diversified, it is not only diversification across the scheme but also fund houses. And Neeraj, you know my view. I recommend 8 to 10 fund to the customer, and never a single scheme, more than one scheme, get repeated from one fund house. So it is very important that even if you're investing in a mutual fund, don't put all eggs in one basket.
Okay, viewers, just as we wrap this conversation about FTR, just quick 2 points here. I mean, enough has been spoken about this. You've written on it. I actually written a piece on this as well, and it broke out that very night. The key is one, is a mutual fund a pass-through mechanism largely? And yes, the answer is a yes. So should this have happened? No. uh, the proponents or the people who are giving the benefit of doubt to Franklin Templeton are saying that we are in extraordinary times right now. Due to COVID-19, due to other factors, a lot of other asset classes are illiquid. So could one give a benefit of doubt to a fund house as well? And that's the question. Now it's debatable because arguably a mutual fund house and a mutual fund scheme is a pass through, and therefore, on the strictest norms of the law, it shouldn't be the case. But that I can roll either way, and you can have an opinion either way. Let's move on. Um, FT is done as things stand right now. This hopefully this satisfies the information that all of you wanted under the current circumstances. Just a couple of other points that I want to talk about. One, I think there's a point that Vijay is trying to make about return math for uh, uh, large cap funds and what should the SIP, what should the route be in order to ensure that you can make the maximum bang for the buck. Vijay, please correct me if I'm describing this incorrectly. And then Jay wants to make a point about how uh, buying a large cap fund may not necessarily the best option. Instead, an ETF might be a better option simply because of outperformance concern. Um, can I start with you, Vijay, on this, and then I'll start the last conversation with Jay. Vijay, to you first. On what do you recommend as an SIP route right now in order to ensure the best return?
See, we spoke earlier as well that the best return in SIP come when the returns are worst. So we have seen, for instance, in month of March 2020, 1 year SIP. Suppose someone started with SIP 1 year back, his 1,20,000 has become 93,000. So that is a negative IRR of close to 40%. But just wait for 1 month instead of 31st, first instead of 1st April. If you look at data on 1st May, the return from 39% has become 7% negative only. So your 93,000 has become 1,24,000, provided you continued your SIP. And after 2 months, if you look at the data on 3rd June, 1,20,000 SIP is now 1,40,000 because the investing period is 14 months now. And the value of this investment has gone up to 1,36,000. So only 4% negative return, which was around 40% 2 months back. And if you look back this number 5 years back, suppose somebody started SIP in 2015 and had a 5 year SIP in March 2020, the 6 lakh invested has become 5 lakh 52,000, so it's a negative return of close to 3%. But just wait for 2 more months, the return has
Hmm.
become close to 4.5% positive. So the point I was making is very simple that when you do SIP, when the return are the worst, that is the best time to continue the SIP. In this market situation, in this economic situation, if your cash flow is a challenge, there is a different ball game altogether. But if your cash flow is not a challenge, then don't discontinue SIP or STP.
Mm. Okay. I mean, I don't know if you're able to show or no, but otherwise the SIP of the return math and SIP, I mean, a number of figures out there, and the returns would vary quite considerably if you just hold on to the SIP for 1 or 2 months more as well. Um, Viewers also remember that from our bottom, the first 30% uptake belongs to the person who's seen that bottom. It would be foolhardy to believe that you or I will be able to find the exact bottom. And that's why maybe SIPs help in getting better returns because you ride the entire cycle to the bottom, but you're able to buy almost at the bottom as well because it's a system driven process and not a manual process. You have to bear that at the back of your mind. Jay, very quickly, you disagree with this?
Sorry, Neeraj, I have to compliment you. I took one quote from you today. You said the person who's gone through the bottom get 30%. I never heard somebody says that. So that is very good statement.
Thanks, Vijay. Thank you so much. Jay, you want to differ
No,
with
I
that
agree
when you're
completely.
looking at the mutual fund investors' perspective?
Absolutely. And I'll just add one point. I think the benefit of an SIP is also some sort of a alpha of structure, right? A lot of people try and assess whether it'll give me a higher return or a lower return or the same return as a lump sum. But actually, the benefit is more in the consistency and the structure that you've established,
Yeah.
and that is what creates the alpha more than anything else.
And at times keeping it simple really helps. So, okay,
Good.
that's one path established. Now, Jay, the second conversation I want to start off with you, and you had this interesting point about why people should not opt for large cap funds in the truest sense. Instead, if you're indeed looking to invest in a large cap fund, invest in an ETF. Why do you say that?
Absolutely. So, since the SEBI recategorization, I think a year and a half back, they've said 80% has to be in the top 100 stocks, right? By market cap, which keeps on changing from time to time. Now, what that tells me is that any mutual fund, which has to buy 50 to 70 stocks on an average, right? That's the general range of holdings in a mutual fund. And if 80% have to go in the top 100, we are effectively becoming, or a large cap fund is effectively becoming more what I call an index hugger. And we are very close to an index hugger, right? Because the 100% of those stocks are in the benchmark, right? If the objective of buying any mutual fund is obviously one to beat the benchmark, right? With the 20% which is there, they have to see a significant alpha in that 20% to get a significant outperformance over the benchmark. And I'm not even talking about fees right now, right? You take fees, whether direct, regular, call it what you want. Post fees, this ideally comes down in the longer term to below benchmark, right? Now, I'm not saying large cap as a holding is bad, right? And which is the point that you alluded to, is that before this recategorization came about, large cap funds were run like multi cap funds, right? Where a significant exposure was there to large cap, but there was enough flexibility for the fund manager to play around and try and make that alpha while not keeping or keeping the base similar to the benchmark, right? To just throw up a few things, the top 10 investment across large cap funds are 55% on an average,
Hmm.
right? Which is similar to the benchmark. The top three sectors are anywhere from 50 to 60%, which is similar to benchmark, right? So all I'm saying is for the benefit that a large cap fund might offer going forward, an ETF which is low cost but guarantees you somewhat of an index return, or a multi-cap fund is a better option.
Okay. So essentially, because of the flexibility that maybe a multi-cap fund offers in trying to generate the alpha by choosing smaller names as well, they believe that that's a better option maybe. And if you indeed want to have a large cap fund because of outperformance issues, maybe an index ETF, which has got a lower expense ratio, might be better. Yeah, you
And if I,
agree?
if I, if I could just put one more point out here in 10
Sure,
seconds,
sure.
right? If you start to choose 3, 4 blue chip large cap funds, right, this problem gets compounded because suddenly you have 50, 60 stocks in each portfolio. Obviously, there is some overlap in 3, 4 funds, but you still land up with the entire universe, right? Now, the
Yeah,
question I asked that do you think in your demat account will you ever buy 100 stocks?
sure.
Right? And it's probably no for most people.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, a portfolio manager would certainly think like that. But Vijay, you agree, disagree, completely agree or disagree? I love it when two people on the show completely disagree with each other.
Hey, what is a better way to manage money, a committee or a fund manager? Who decides stocks in the index? Yes Bank was introduced in the index when it already had its best run. IndusInd Bank was introduced 1.5, 2 year back before the whole crisis happened. When both these banks has delivered their multi-baggers return. Currently, if you see, healthcare weightage in Nifty is very low. But most of the mutual fund, large cap have a huge exposure to healthcare because that is what a fund manager's job is to. So we need to see the data in India. Data are actually inconclusive, and there are many wonderful large cap schemes which has consistently outperformed and generated far better, even in these challenging times, has generated good return to the investor. So it is up to a financial advisor to help investor to navigate to what fund and what fund not to buy. So I need to see data. If I see data, the index are outperforming, ETFs outperforming, I'll go in that camp. But today, I don't have enough data available. And whatever data we see our data basically somebody's already created a hypothesis and the data are used to prove that hypothesis. So we need to see more data and debate around it.
Maybe time will tell, but there, just wondering, quick 30 seconds because we are running out of time on the show completely. Are are there are there outliers, and is the larger category uh, performing as per the index? And then therefore the second question, and there we have 30 seconds for this. The
Absolutely.
second question is that even if the larger categories are rather performing as per the index, are the outliers consistent enough? Is that not an argument?
Sure. So in my mind, if you've seen, there will definitely be outliers across different time horizons, whether 6 months, 1 year, 3 years, without a doubt. Can you continuously find a mutual fund which is going to continuously outperform? In my mind, that's an improbable task, if not impossible. Uh, and hence, and again, the point is that as Vijay correctly said, it just comes down to asset allocation. That look, do you want large cap exposure? How much alpha do you want? And if alpha is what you want to chase, why not go to mid caps and small caps, right? Or
Okay.
the same fund managers or the same fund houses.
So valid points, and I think it depends on the investor psyche as well as to what suits the investor better. Yeah, let's see. Time will tell if indeed post the changes over the 5 year period. Have there been funds in the large cap category that have consistently beaten the Nifty, and maybe those be the ones that people might flock to as well. So as Jack Poplet said, if a fund is actually outperforming for a period of 10 years, then you should get out of that fund because it won't be able to continue to do that. But we are out of time completely on this show. Gentlemen, I would have loved to chat more, but we're out of time completely. Vijay, Jay, thank you so much for taking the time out and being with us today on the Mutual Fund Show. And viewers, thanks
Thank
for
you,
tuning
Neeraj.
into this podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you, Niraj. Thank you, Jay.